Hey there, friends. Welcome to this episode of the Legal Paige podcast. Today's episode is all about the Small Business Administration loans that have come into effect after the CARES Act, including the EIDL loans and the $10,000 potential grant associated with it. And of course, the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP program that everyone keeps talking about. Today, I have guest expert Dominique Broadway on. She is the CEO and personal finance expert at Finances DE-MYS-TI-FIED. Dominique knew right from when she was a teenager that she wanted to be a financial planner. She has received various accolades, including the top 30 under 30 in Washington, D.C., as well as countless other achievements. Dominique noticed while working at various financial planning firms that they were only focusing on one thing, people with certain assets. But who was helping everyone else that maybe didn't have those type of assets? In 2012, she brought her business to life. She has a strong passion for working with young professionals, entrepreneurs, and people of all ages. Friends, I am so honored and excited to have this award-winning millennial personal finance expert on the podcast today. Money advice should be available to anyone that desires it, and it should be affordable. And Dominique is here to help. So let's get into this episode, Legal Pagers. You're listening to the Legal Paige podcast, where we chat about life and business with a legal twist. I'm Paige, attorney and photographer helping online businesses and creatives tackle their business dreams without breaking out in hives. No more legal mumbo jumbo. This podcast features simple, bite-sized advice that'll have you legally legit in no time. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hey everyone, thanks so much for tuning in today. I am overjoyed and excited to have brought on a financial expert, Dominique Broadway, today to the Legal Paige podcast. Dominique, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Paige. I'm so excited to be chatting about this topic.
Yeah, it's definitely a timely topic and on everybody's mind. So you guys, we're going to be talking about the Emergency Small Business Administration Disaster Relief Loans. Woof, that's a mouthful. That will provide relief to all of you small businesses, and it's all kind of stemming from the CARES Act. So Dominique, before we get into the nitty-gritty of all of these different loans that people are frantically trying to apply for, why don't you just start by telling the Legal Paige listeners who you are and what you do?
Yeah. So again, my name is Dominique Broadway. I'm an award-winning financial planner, personal finance expert, and the founder of Finances DE-MYS-TI-FIED. So essentially at Finances DE-MYS-TI-FIED, we work with millennials, entrepreneurs, and creatives, helping them to understand their finances and demystify them so they can bring all their dreams to reality.
That's awesome. And Dominique, where are you based out of?
I am kind of nomading a little bit. I'm actually in Florida at the moment because we were traveling for a month in Mexico and had to cut that trip short as we were in the process of moving from DC to New York, but we were also living in LA last year. So we're still kind of floating. So I'm kind of a citizen of the world.
I love it. Well, those are all great states. New York right now is obviously under a bunch of stress, but Florida and sunshine. I'm here in Montana and we finally got sunshine this week. So I'm feeling these Florida vibes that you're talking about.
Yes. Poolside daily is a vibe here. So,
I wish we had pools up here, but that's okay. We've got mountains.
Yes, they're beautiful and peaceful too.
Definitely peaceful. Less people here in our state, which is nice. So, Dominique, I think we should just dive right in here, and we don't need to. We just got to cut to the chase on this discussion that we're having on small business administration loans. So obviously, the CARES Act was implemented at the end of March 2020. And then from that, they're trying to give a bunch of relief to small businesses in the way of loans and grants potentially. So can you first just kind of talk about the differences between, in my understanding, the big EIDL loan and then the PPP program?
Yeah. So, they're very simple. And I know there seems to be a lot of confusion around the two, but the EIDL, which is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, which is so long, like I can never say the whole thing, but the EIDL program, the EIDL program, essentially That is for any company, so for-profit or nonprofit, that has been impacted by a disaster, right? So this, COVID-19 or coronavirus pandemic is considered a disaster. And basically every city and state in the U.S. is considered to have been impacted by it, right? So these economic injury disaster loan programs have been around. So a lot of times, like, it isn't a new program. People think it's new. It's actually not new. It's really for people that are impacted by a certain disaster. So hurricane zones, things like that, they're impacted by these disasters. So with this specific program, I think they provide, I believe, up to $2 million. I know some of these numbers have been changing day to day, so it's kind of hard to keep up. But right now they're providing up to $2 million of financial assistance. So essentially, that loan program is for you to kind of get working capital, to keep your business going, to cover all of your various expenses. And that's essentially what the EIDL, Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program is. And then we have the other program that people are talking about, which is the PPP, I don't know what they come up with these names, the Paycheck Protection Program, which is also a part of the CARES Act. And that essentially, just to keep it simple, is exactly what it says, paycheck, to protect people's paychecks. It allows you as an employer or as a self-employed individual to continue to pay yourself and continue to pay your employees during this time. So that's basically the difference between the two. The Paycheck Protection Program is to cover paychecks, and the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program is to give you that working capital and to continue to keep, your business afloat and to keep it open and operating.
So simple. Thank you so much for just wrapping that into very simplistic terms for everyone. Okay, so let's clarify down a little bit more so there's definitely no confusion here. Who is eligible for these loans? Because people are like, I'm self-employed, I'm an independent contractor, I'm a freelancer, I own a business with just say 10 employees, maybe you own a business with 50 employees. Let's clarify that for people.
Yeah. So starting with the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. So with the economic EIDL, I'm just gonna say EIDL. With the EIDL program, it's for small businesses and for nonprofit organizations. So essentially, if you're a small business, and I believe if you're started before February 15th, I believe is the exact date, you're eligible to apply for these loans. Now, understand, you have to be able to show that your business has been open and operating, and I believe you have to kind of at least show that you have been impacted by this in some way or another. So pretty much, if you are a business, you have, what is it, a sole proprietor, if you're LLC, S Corp, C Corp, whoever it may be, and you probably know more about this than me, you're eligible to apply for the EIDL program. And as well, you're also eligible to apply for the Paycheck Protection Program. So with the Paycheck Protection Program, it's for, like we said, for-profits, nonprofits, but also for the first time, it's also eligible for independent contractors and self-employed people, essentially. So hopefully that kind of goes a little bit more just to kind of tell who's eligible.
Yeah, that you kind of hit the nail on the head there. That's my understanding as well for the EIDL loans and the PPP program as well. So back to the EIDL loan, people are like, can I really only get $1,000 per employee? I know that's been rolling around because people are talking about, the $10,000 grant part of the loan. How much you said, up to $2 million. I'm sure lots of small businesses that you and I are talking about, people that probably make under six figures a year is more or less the people that are in the boat that are listening today. Yep. Where, how much should they be asking for? And what can you talk a little more about that $10,000 grant part of it?
Yeah, so this $10,000 grant, and it's good that we have like podcasts like yours to kind of just really demystify what these programs are, right? So people,
Right.
I think they thought last week that when this application went live, they would drop their application the week before last. The application that they would put their application in, and they would get like $10,000 like that Friday, right?
Yes, exactly.
And it was funny. I was like literally reading message boards, and people are like, "Did anyone get their $10,000 today? It wasn't deposited in my account." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is not."
It's not how that works.
So, essentially, with the $10,000 is what that is. It's considered like emergency funds, right? So as soon as you put your application in, and once your application is processed, and this is the part that people are forgetting, once it's processed and your need is your need is basically verified, you're eligible to get like an emergency grant of up to $10,000. Okay, so taking that back one step, you have to put the application in, and then from what I'm reading, SBA and from other just kind of forums, is it can be another 7 to 14 days for your application to be processed. And once your application's processed and the need is determined, they can kind of advance you up to $10,000 from whatever you are approved for. And even if you aren't finally approved for a loan, you don't have to pay that back. Okay. Now, the $10,000 amount and the $1,000 per employee the numbers that we're hearing that people are confused by with this EDL program, from what I'm reading, is that you're eligible to get $1,000 per employee, right? So, which is weird, right? That's why there's a lot of controversy, and even like talking to SBA people, like they don't even know a lot, which is frustrating. But they're saying that you can get $1,000. So if you have a staff of 5, then you would get a $5,000 emergency grant. I don't know how that's going to help anybody, if there's 5 people, but that's basically what they're saying. And so let's say if you are eligible for the entire $10,000 emergency grant, and then you finally end up being eligible for, let's just, I don't know, an $80,000 loan, right? They would just basically, they've already given you 10 and they would just give you the rest of the 70,000. So that's basically what that is. But there's still a lot of mystery surrounding this $10,000 grant. I have not, and I've been reading and searching, I haven't found a single person that's received it. So there's still a little cloudiness there, but essentially that is what the $1,000 that we're hearing, that number, that's where that's coming from.
Yeah, and the PPP program is at least, getting funds into people's hands a little bit faster. But the EIDL loan that Dominique is talking about too, from my understanding as well, it is an advance. So I'm really glad Dominique really talked about the word advance, because it's an advance on the loan, and it will qualify as a grant and it will be forgiven under the loan, but you do have to then have documentation that, from my understanding, you have to go back to the SBA and show them that you did indeed use the funds, the advanced funds, for what you told the SBA you were going to use it for. And you guys, they have a list of like 5 different things you should be using it for, rent, paying employees, paying utilities, those type of things, really just to keep, like you said, the business viability intact.
Yeah. And you still have to prove that you used it for that. And if it shows that you did not, then you would have to pay it back. And also, just like I said, keywords too. I mean, and you're the lawyer here, but like, the keyword up to 10,000. So everyone's like, oh my gosh, I can get 10,000. No. Up to 10,000 can be advanced. Up to. So it doesn't mean that the whole 10,000 is automatically going to be given to you.
Yeah, exactly. And, I kind of foresee, I was talking to someone the other day about this, another CPA, and all of you financial experts and CPAs are out there like helping people apply for these loans right now. I know there's a few attorneys that are doing it, but just so everybody knows, attorneys aren't really going to come into the picture too much until you either get denied by the SBA, and then they really need to go in and kind of help you legally support the fact that you are eligible and should be approved for such application. And for the aftermath of like, if you get denied for the loan, portions of the loan to be forgiven. That's where I see attorneys really coming in and working with the SBA as well.
Agreed.
So the PPP program, today is April 10th, you guys. This is when we're recording this. A week ago on Friday, April 3rd is when this program opened and for people to apply through different banks. It's not through the SBA, so it's a little different. You don't just like go to the SBA website and apply. You have to go to specific financial institutions to apply. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yes. And I think that is where people were so confused
Right.
last week. People were so confused, like, where do I apply? So just like you said, you don't actually apply through the SBA. You do have to apply through either your respective bank that you have your business banking relationship with, or some other third party. So I know I was hearing last week, like Bank of America, I think was the first company or the first bank whose application went live, but like they weren't letting even a lot of their bank customers apply because some of their bank customers who had business checking accounts with them but never got a loan from Bank of America,
Right.
they weren't making eligible. It was a mess last week. It really was. And you really could tell that they really threw this together, right? So so you can go directly to your bank. And if your bank is not the ones that's dispersing funds, 9 times out of 10, they will send you somewhere else. So example, I use Aslo for one of my business checking accounts, and they are not dispersing funds, but they have a partnership with Cabbage and I believe Fundera, right? So you can go to one of those sites and apply for the Paycheck Protection Program. So that's where you go to actually apply. So you either go through your bank or go through a third party like a Lindio, Fundera, or Cabbage to apply. Now, another thing to keep in mind is with the Paycheck Protection Program is that today, I believe, today I just saw, is today April 10th? Yeah, April 10th. Yeah, is when sole proprietors and independent contractors can apply for the PPP. So technically, last Friday, when this was made available, it was only for businesses and people with W-2 employees. So today is technically the first day where independent contractors and sole proprietors can apply.
Yeah, and they've been really working this entire week, every bank, to try to figure out how they're going to get these funds to people. And they've been working, you guys, they have to work with the Treasury Department and the SBA to kind of figure out, like, do they close on the loan? Do they not close on the loan? How long do they have? So the banks are also working kind of around the clock this week to figure out what is this new loan that they can produce to their customers. So people are getting these loans, though. I have heard of many people who have gotten the funds already, and they applied kind of last Friday and Saturday and Sunday. So these are getting dispersed a lot more quickly. The amount that you can get, Dominique, how do you document what payroll, that you have? From my understanding, it's on average your monthly payroll for 2019. But then is it 2.5 times that amount that you can get? Is that correct?
Yep, that's what I've been reading. The maximum loan size is 2.5 times your average monthly pay. So, like you said, a lot of the people that are listening, they're probably on the sole proprietor or independent contractor side, or just small business owner. So even if you are one of those that we just mentioned, and they're not basing it off of the W-2s that you receive or W-2s that you send to your employees, and they're basing it specifically off of your self-employment income, which can be from a 1099 miscellaneous form, or from your Schedule C, your 1040 Schedule C, that's with your taxes, right? So it's 2.5 times that monthly average is what the loan size can be. And just a couple other things with the loan. So the term for this loan is 2 years. And what they're doing is they're deferring payments for 6 months, okay, which is really good. And then the interest rate on the loan, I believe, is only 1%. So it's very, very affordable money. As in all situations, I always say only take, what you need, because obviously you do have to pay this back. In this Paycheck Protection Program, they haven't mentioned anything about forgiving any portions of it. So you would have to pay this entire piece back.
Yeah. And I think that is a big misnomer out there as well, because people are saying, well, it is forgivable, this PPP loan. I think this is going to change significantly because, and we can kind of talk about this here a little bit. They have this June 30th, 2020 date. And they're saying that if you hire back kind of the head count that you had previous to February 15th, 2020, the total employee headcount that you have, if you hire them back by June 30th, that exact amount, that's where people are kind of getting frustrated here. And we could go into this because I think it's going to be hard to hire back that exact amount. Like small businesses are going to have to work with a smaller workforce to kind of pick up the pieces for the demand of their business isn't going to be as high as what it was in February. So I think it can be forgiven. But caveat here. Yeah. I think this is going to change significantly, and this is what lawmakers are kind of working with right now. So that's where like the legal side of things comes in, you guys. Congress is now going back to the drawing board and being like, okay, sounds like coronavirus may last a little longer than we anticipated. I doubt that businesses are going to be able to hire back all of the employees that they either still have on or have furloughed at this point by June 30th. And then there's a lot of confusion out there surrounding how you document that, like how, what are these employees doing? And there's this weird 8-week period. Do you know anything about that? That, people are talking about this like weird, what's it called? 8-week formula that everyone's talking about. Do you know anything about that?
No, not really. No, I don't think I've heard of that. 8 weeks.
Yeah. So, I think it's all about the loan proceeds as well from the PPP program. So the amount of the proceeds that the borrower spends in the first 8 weeks on payroll costs, mortgage payments, rent, and insurance can be forgiven. That's kind of why everybody was so excited about this PPP loan, because it was different from the EIDL loan. And, it was saying, well, not just $10,000, but you can have most of it forgiven. So from my understanding, you can have it forgiven and it would be tax-free with this 8-week formula.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I have heard of that. Yes. If it was spent, yes, I did hear about that during the first 8 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. During the first 8 weeks. But I mean, just really logically, realistically speaking here, no business can like bring their actual business back to life in 8 weeks right now.
I think from that, because what I do remember seeing that, and it was basically saying like anything that you spend in the first 8 weeks is 100% forgiven. And let me just pull that out from here too. It's saying, so if you're using it in the first 8 weeks to replace your 1099 miscellaneous income or your net self-employment income, if you're paying interest on mortgages, business rent, or business utilities, then it's forgiven in the first 8 weeks. So, what I don't really understand is when are they going to come back and verify all of this, right?
Yes, I know.
So I don't know, but
good luck, SBA.
Like that's just part of me is kind of like, you're kind of kidding yourself here. But with all that being said, if you are getting these loans, please make sure that you are keeping your bank statements and you're documenting how you're using the money, because it may not be this year. It may be the end of next year when we file taxes or whatever. And they're like, okay, you got this loan. You're required to submit this, blah, blah, blah. Like, how the government does. So, but I'm not really, none of us have ever lived through anything like this, right? So I'm not sure.
It is all new.
It is. It's very new.
And this really goes to the heart of what you were saying at the beginning. Like, don't take out a loan for more than you need. I had heard from like a brewery that got like a $200,000 PPP loan. And they're like, I have no idea how we're going to pay all of that back in these 8 weeks because we furloughed everybody. And that is why you can take 2.5 times your average monthly payroll in a loan, but you might not need to. So only take what you need, and what you, for most people, they're like, oh, this is going to be forgiven. Okay. But there's guidelines here on this loan and the forgivability of the loan. So it is this 8-week formula that it just keeps getting spewed around in all of these forums. And
keyword, it has to be spent. It can't just be.
It has to be spent. Yes.
Like you have to show that it went to a mortgage company or to your rent, or, you know what I mean? You have to show that it went somewhere, not that it's just sitting in your savings account.
Right, exactly. And so it's just, it's important for people to kind of add up, like, what costs do they really, really need to pay for right now for the next 2 to 3 months, especially 2 months for the 8 weeks that they can get forgiven. And then is it worth it to keep, a loan at 1% interest rate deferred for 6 months for payment purposes? That's still a pretty great loan. So, you still might want to take a little bit more than that, but just be aware of what you could potentially get forgiven and what wouldn't be able to be forgiven.
Yeah. Yeah. And also just really quickly, just make sure, if you are getting these loans, some people and I understand a lot of people are very desperate right now. And I understand that, but please still make sure that you're reading through your loan your loan contracts and your loan agreement, and, understand the specific terms, and still go through page by page. Don't just be so excited that you got the money. Still go through page by page and see exactly what you're agreeing to, what you're signing up for.
Yeah, that's really important as well, because the closing of the loan is important for this 8-week formula, an 8-week period to kick in. And people have told me that their banks, they'll get approved for the loan right away, but maybe they wanted to defer the closing for a week or two to kind of set themselves up a little bit better for that 8 weeks post closing of the loan. And so again, like Dominique's saying, you guys you have to talk to your financial institution and hopefully just banker. They will walk you through all of this, which is kind of a good transition to my next question. Big banks, right? Wells Fargo, Bank of America, they shut down their applications in 48 hours or 72 hours or something. So what do you suggest for people? I know you were talking about just, talk to your financial institution. They might be able to send you elsewhere. Where can people get these PPP loans from? Because again, I think that's a big confusion for people.
Yeah, and I think we hit on this a little bit earlier, but you can pretty much get them from, like I said, your bank, or you can even go. There's so many third parties. So the CARES Act designated, I believe, $250 million or something like that, or some really large amount, to go directly to third party.
Yeah, it was 359, I think, billion.
Yeah. Okay,
now they're trying to get another influx of 250 billion. They might have a CARES 2.
They're dedicating a certain portion of that to those non-traditional lenders, like a Fundera or a Lindio or a Cabbage, like the ones I mentioned earlier, because a lot of people, especially a lot of sole proprietors and contractors, don't have a business banking relationship. They don't have a brick and mortar. They don't have, a guy or gal that they go see every month at, their local branch, right? So you can go through some of these third parties. And like I said, if even like I mentioned earlier, I bank with Aslo for one of my business checking accounts. They're not dispersing loans, but on their website, as soon as I log on, they say you have 2 other people that we partner with, Cabbage and I believe Fundera, right? So go straight to whatever place holds your money. 9 times out of 10, they have a resource there. If you don't see it, you can go to Lindio, it's Lendio, or like I said, or a Fundera, who they're more of a marketplace for loans, but they have been granted the authority, through, I guess, the SBA to disperse these funds. So those are a couple places that you can check. And then one more thing I wanted to add just about the Paycheck Protection Program, because this is another thing I've been hearing. I'm not sure if you were going to get to this or not, but if you have already applied for unemployment,
right,
you are actually not eligible for the Paycheck Protection Program. So that's another thing that people were kind of unaware of. So you need to kind of do the calculation and determine, does it make more sense for you to apply for unemployment, or does it make more sense for you to apply for the Paycheck Protection Program? Because 9 times out of 10, you're going to get more money from the Paycheck Protection Program, but obviously with unemployment, that does not have to be paid back, right? So you kind of want to run and see what makes more sense you apply for, because you can't get both.
Right. And that's a really good note for people on April 10th as we're recording this. We'll try to get this episode out as quickly as possible for everyone. But for sole proprietors and for independent contractors who are freelancing or, doing their own thing, and maybe they don't have an LLC set up, maybe they're not an S Corp, maybe they have absolutely no payroll set up, it is looking like as Dominique has said, and I agree with you, that the PPP program might be a little bit better than unemployment because you're not going to draw as much on unemployment anyway.
Yeah.
And so if you can take a smaller PPP loan and use it for XYZ purposes and get some of it forgiven, it might be worthwhile and you might get more than unemployment.
Yeah.
So you might be able to keep the stability of your business, up, which is good.
Yeah.
So other relief, I think there's local community relief that people can look for. I know there's some nonprofit corporations and companies that are offering relief. What is just your general financial take on all of these relief funds that people can have access to right now? Should you stick solely to the government level relief funds? Should you look elsewhere as well? I think people they're not forward thinking enough into the future of, 6 to 12 months down the line, how is this going to affect my small business when I have 5 different loans?
Yeah. Yeah. So I do think that you should consider other options as well, because there may be a chance where you may not be eligible at all for an SBA loan or a PPP loan, especially if you have not been keeping good records, which is why I'm always telling people to keep good financial records, right? And so a lot of people, they don't have the proof that they've been paying themselves. They don't have the proof. And so it might be really hard for them to get some of these loans. So I do think some of these other sources are great. I know I did some sponsored content last week with Intuit? No, QuickBooks?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, what was it? Intuit.
Intuit is QuickBooks.
Intuit, yes. Yeah. But I think it was specifically QuickBooks. I should remember this. QuickBooks. So QuickBooks and GoFundMe have partnered up. So if you open a GoFundMe account, and get people to contribute, they're going to be matching some of the GoFundMe contributions up to $1 million, which is really cool, right? So that's something where obviously, as you know, you do a GoFundMe and you can, even if you're on Yelp, you can attach the GoFundMe to your Yelp page and kind of push it out to your customers, which I think is really cool. So something like that, you don't have to pay the money back. There's also so many different, wealthy individuals and in large organizations that are, kind of putting their money where their mouth is and really making money available. So I know Sarah Blakely from Spanx is doing the Red Book Backpack Project. I think they're giving out $5,000 to people. Obviously, you have to pay. You have to not pay. You have to apply for all of these programs. Hello Alice is giving out $10,000 per company. Shea Moisture, I think they just launched their fund. They're giving out $5,000 or $10,000. So I would definitely say, kind of keep your ears, open and listening to some of these programs. A lot of these programs that are coming out, they're grants. Mm-hmm. They do not have to be paid back, right? So obviously just make sure that anything that you're applying for, anything that you're signing up for, be very clear. Is this a grant? Is this a loan? If it is a loan, make sure that you have a very clear budget and idea of your financial situation so you understand exactly how much you can afford to pay back, because this could go on for quite a bit of time. It's going to take a long time for the economy to bounce back from this. I was having a call with a client earlier who is a part-time yoga instructor, and she is considering turning one of the rooms in her house into a small yoga studio because she feels like it's going to be that long before the yoga studio that she used to work at will be able to open back up, right? And so she's like, it may be closed indefinitely. I have some private clients that would love to still, continue this in 3 months once things, settle down, right? So she's trying to think about ways that her business is going to have to shift going forward. America's going to be the world's going to be doing business differently after all of this. So just making sure that you're prepared for all of that. And, your sales may not immediately pick up. Are you going to be able to cover these loans, et cetera, et cetera? So those are just some things you should be thinking about as well.
Yeah. Those are amazing. Thank you so much for all of that information and suggestions for people to get other types of grants and awards. And you guys, people have money right now. We're not in as Dominique was saying this, I was thinking, we're not in a position like we were in 2008 when everything hit and it was, the real estate bubble, which hit everybody. People were in kind of a better financial position now, GDP wise, and just amount of debt that every average household had. It's way less than it was back then. So people do have more money now. And I am seeing, just like Dominique is seeing, more people stepping up to the plate to help small businesses. I do think we are going to get through this time because it is a lot different. I do think it's a temporary period.
Yeah.
So yeah, just be optimistic a little bit, you guys, because just because the SBA may decline your application and maybe you don't have the ability to get the PPP loan because you filed for unemployment or it's really difficult. Dominique, maybe you could touch on this a little bit. I'm hearing from people that are like sole proprietors and independent contractors, or even if they have an LLC, like they're not set up for payroll. Like they're the only person, they're the owner, and then they just pay themselves through like an electronic transfer. What do you suggest for those people? And this might be a big financial lesson for all of them, consistency in payments to be able to show that for loans like this. What do you suggest for people that are in that position that may want to apply for the government loans? And of course, it might be better for them to just look into these alternate third-party grants and stuff like that.
Yeah. So you have a couple options. So if you're using, so let's say if you haven't been paying yourself consistently, but maybe you're using a service, maybe like a Gusto, right? And you may pay yourself $1,000 or so every month or something of that nature. Like Gusto, ADP, and I think QuickBooks literally have already made an integration inside of their platform where you can say, you need paperwork for the PPP, and they will automatically calculate and create those reports for you.
Right.
But if you're a sole proprietor and you have not necessarily been paying yourself, you have no track record of it, everything that kind of comes to the account, you just kind of live off of that. You are able to show your Schedule C from your 1040 taxes. So if you finish your 1040 taxes, if you finish your taxes for this year, you should be able to go and look at your Schedule C, which is, I believe, your profit and loss basically statement for your business for the entire year. They are saying that you can use that documentation to prove that you are a sole proprietor and obviously that you do make money, and they'll base it off of that. So that's what I'm hearing. I haven't heard anyone that's gotten it yet. Obviously, that just went live today, but that's from what I'm reading. That's going to be acceptable.
Yep, same here. That's what I'm reading as well, and I think we'll have a better indication of how that's looking next week for. Definitely sole proprietors who are kind of commingling funds. Maybe they don't even have a business bank account. And this is, we're getting into things that you guys know I preach on, why it's important to separate finances for, of course, legal liability purposes, but Dominique for, of course, financial purposes as well. I guess lastly, I think I'll just ask 2 follow-up questions here on like 2020 taxes. Like, how is this going to look for people when they file in 2021? Do people need to be concerned at all about how these loans will implicate their, tax returns for this year once they file in, I guess, almost a year from now? Yeah.
So I would not worry about that right now. Honestly, I think the biggest thing is we're just trying to get through this year, right? To be honest, from what I'm reading, in just researching, like I said, this is new. This is a new thing going on. Like there's not tons of information on it. The loans, obviously they're loans, right? So you don't have to worry about that being added onto your taxes as earned income or anything of that nature. There may be some options to write off some of the interest of the loan, but honestly, I can't tell you exactly. But I would say definitely don't stress about it. It's not just you, it's the entire country going through this. So there's going to have to be some sort of programs in place. From what I'm reading with the grants, they won't be taxable. That is what I've seen so far. Now, obviously, any of this stuff can change. Like the government can do what they want to do, right? But that's what I'm seeing right now. So I wouldn't stress about it. Let's just try to get through this year above water.
That's a really good way to kind of end our segment here on these SBA loans, because it's true. You guys take care of your business where it's at right now. And then we can think about what 2020 taxes are going to look like. When I got that question from a listener, I was like, okay, I guess I'll ask it. But to be very honest, let's think about just keeping your business alive right now, my friend.
Yeah. Look, we just want to have something to tax next year. Let's say that.
I'll just kind of round it out, you guys. People are asking, how long do you have to apply? From my understanding, it's June 30th is kind of how long this application process will be open for both the EIDL loan and the PPP loan. From my understanding, they may extend that.
Yeah. So what I've seen, it is December 16th.
Oh, okay. They might have extended it.
For
Mhm.
yeah. So like I said, and it's like I said, it's hard. It's constantly changing. So when I was looking earlier this morning, they're saying you have until December 16th to apply for the EIDL loan. Not sure who would wait that long, but yes,
Yeah, and it is a
it
first
is.
come, first serve. That's most important for people to know is get your
Yeah.
application in soon because the
Yeah.
funds aren't running out. I checked on something this morning too before we jumped on this podcast recording, and it's I was reading through some lawyer, of course, articles. That's what I read.
Yeah.
It's so fun. But they talk a lot about these programs because we are getting inundated with questions and calls about it from the attorney perspective. So they were saying that people think that these loans are just gone and that, the millions of businesses applied. And so all the loan funds are gone. When in fact, this article was stating that there's like 2/3 of the loans still available, like the funds still available because they're not equating the fact with getting like accepted for the loan and the loan dispersing to people. And that is where the loans are gone. Like the funds are dispersed. So for people who are like, I missed the boat applying, everyone did last week. That's not the case. You can still apply now. And I know tons of people who are getting in their applications now. And you have, if what Dominique is saying, you have till the end of the year. But again, first come, first serve, get it in as quickly as you can, but make sure that you have the proper documentation to support a good loan application. I think people are just thinking they can like throw in numbers and like hit, submit, and that they're going to get processed quickly when in fact, nobody really knows how quickly things are getting processed per se. It's different, but I think a good loan application across the board, Dominique, you could probably state this for any type of loan you're applying for. You got to have a solid application to be able to get those funds quickly.
Yeah, you have to really be able to show the need. Like they're not just handing out money to be handing out money, so.
Yeah. So there's still funds, you guys, like this, we're trying to be optimistic here. There's other third-party loans you can get and grants. Of course, these can turn into forgivable loans where they are essentially a grant. So hopefully that was helpful to all of you as we kind of dug into the SBA loans. And then of course, this PPP loan that you can get from various financial institutions that have been approved by the SBA. So Dominique, let's leave here with something fun because money and financial viability of businesses is like not exactly fun to talk about. It's important right now. It's vitally important. But okay, I want to do like a rapid fire thing of just things Dominique loves so people can get a little bit more information about you and maybe some.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So what is your favorite drink?
Old fashioned.
Ooh. Love me an old fashioned. Bourbon or whiskey?
Whiskey.
Okay. What is your favorite munchy food?
Munchy food? Cupcakes, probably.
Yum. Oh my God. Now I'm hungry for cupcakes.
Yeah.
What's your favorite TV show?
The Office.
Love it. Do you have a pet peeve?
Beds not being made up.
Type A. I like it. Yes. What type of music genre do you listen to most often?
R&B. I'm stuck in the 90s.
Stuck in the 90s. Oh, I was on my Peloton ride the other day and I was like, yeah, 90s Peloton ride. Let's do this. What is the funniest thing that's happened to you recently?
Yeah, yesterday I was having a great cup of tea and my friend comes by, my sister-in-law, she's like, oh, you're just drinking lemon and lemon? And I was like, no, I'm drinking tea. And I realized I had made a cup of lemon and honey with no tea bag. And I had just literally said to myself, like, wow, this is a really good cup of tea. So basically I had been sipping this the whole time with no tea bag. So I thought that was just ridiculous.
That's actually pretty entertaining. The things we're all forgetting to do lately because our heads space is somewhere else. Yeah. Awesome. Those were great answers to those questions. Do you have any last final words, quick financial tips that you can share with our listeners as they enter this kind of new post-corona season of business?
Yeah, I think just don't stress too much. We're going to get through this. things like this have happened before. As always, we always survive. We get through this. We may just have to shift a little bit. So just be open-minded about the shifts you have to make in your business and in your personal life. And don't count yourself out. I see so many people who are just not applying for loans or programs because they just automatically assume they're not going to get approved. Just put your name in the hat. The worst thing they can say is no, but don't count yourself out.
Love it. That's a good note to end on. Dominique, where can people find you if they need more resources or want to continue the conversation?
Yeah, so our website is financesdemystified.com. It's the same thing on Instagram, and also Dominique Broadway on Instagram is where I spend most of my time.
Perfect, you guys. And I'll link all those up so you can find Dominique easily. Dominique, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Paige. Talk soon.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Legal Paige podcast. See, I told you being legally legit isn't so scary. Be sure to visit thelegalpage.com for all show notes. And it would be super awesome if you could head over to iTunes and leave a review. Last but not least, don't forget to join my free Facebook group for unlimited legal and biz Q&A. Chat soon, Legal Pagers.